test, test. call to order the City Council meeting for Monday, February 17th, 2025. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call, Amanda.
Mark Bittner,
Here.
Shannon Derby, here. Bill LeClaire,
Bill, you there?
Doug Brandt,
Here.
Tim Petrie,
Here.
Bonnie Shimalunas, here. Scott Steckmesser,
Here.
Adam Mahusky,
Here.
Darla LeClaire, all present.
Thank you all for that. On to number 4, consideration of any council member requests to participate in this meeting from a remote location. Tonight we have one. Mr. LeClaire is not able to join us here, so he'll be joining us remotely. But before he can, we need to allow him to join us. So looking for a motion to allow Bill to join us tonight. Thank you, Shannon. Looking for a second. Thank you, Mark. Any council discussion? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote. Amanda.
Shannon Derby,
Aye.
Doug Brandt,
Aye.
Tim Petrie,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimalunas,
Aye.
Scott Steckmesser,
Aye.
Adam Mahusky,
Aye.
Darla LeClaire, Mark Bittner, all in favor.
Okay, on to number 5, which we have none of that tonight, so we can skip to that. On to number 6, input from the public. If anyone wishes to address the council, please step up to the podium on your left, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, we will quickly move on to number 7, council communications, letter and other communications from citizens. Anyone have anything? Yes, Adam.
I just have one. It was about streetlights on Tannery Road. I did communicate that with Brian, who did take time out of his weekend to drive down Tannery Road at night to check the streetlights, which seem to be in good working condition and pretty much check as status quo. So thank you. But to that citizen, it was checked.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Bonnie.
This isn't totally related only to Two Rivers, but Two Rivers taxes go towards Lakeshore College. And I did a tour there just last week, and they did a $6 million project, and they actually added courses, culinary, dental, nursing assistant, CNAs, and they have a state-of-the-art in their medical course that was Freighter Hospital donated $1 million toward it. It's hard to explain. They have very realistic things like realistic plastic arms and stuff like that to practice putting needles in, things like that. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention it because it's in our area, and I think our taxes do contribute to that place. And I thought it was nice that we have such a state-of-the-art institution so nearby. That's it.
Thank you, Bonnie. Anyone else? Yes, Tim.
I was contacted by a couple people again about the direction on along the beach, about seeing if they could switch the one way to go the other way so that people exiting the car, that the driver would get into the lane of traffic instead of the passenger and kids and whatnot.
Okay. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Okay. On to number 8, council reports from boards, commissions, and committees. Anyone have anything? Yes, Darla.
Before I talk about Main Street, I just wanted to let you guys know that within the last couple of weeks, Bill and I have had to call 911. And I'll tell you what, and I'm not talking about why, but I want to tell you the response that we got from our guys was tremendous. And everybody who is involved in an event is caring and kind. They listen, they make sure you're comfortable. So I just really want to let everybody know that your tax dollars are going to something that is light years beyond worthy. it can be life-saving. And to have this crew, who is, A+, we're so fortunate. So I just wanted to say that.
And then go ahead. Yep.
Main Street, sorry about that. This I didn't know until today, but there is a new business downtown. It's called Two Rivers Showcase and Music Center LLC, and it's located at 1810 Washington Street. I'm going to just kind of read this blurb. They invite you to perform your talent in an intimate setting. You limit your performance to 4 minutes per slot, though you may perform multiple times depending on number of participants. They have non-alcoholic beverages and they have snacks available. They have, and with their ticket prices, there is a lesser amount ticket for students. And I don't know much about this, but it sounds really awesome. So I'm going to make sure that I check it out. But yeah, so 1810 Washington. I don't know what's there right now. Does anybody know? Can you think?
That's
to
right
be
next to
Molly's
the bike
Closet.
shop. Right next to the bike shop.
Okay.
Where Molly's Closet or whatever. it
Gotcha.
is.
All right.
South of the old Evans.
Yeah, she
Okay.
owns the building, I believe.
So yeah, we're getting some use out of a dark storefront too. Just to remind everybody, the Great Trivia Contest is coming up March 14. And the location is the J.E. Hamilton Community House Gym. And space is limited. Teams they can consist of 10 or fewer members. You can get all of the information from our Main Street office, but everybody has a really good time, and it seems like it's really worth dressing up for and looking stupid. So, okay. Oh, and Main Street office, we're looking for some summer office help. So if you know anyone who is looking to work maybe 2 or 3 days a week and 1 or 2 Saturdays a month, get in touch with the office. So that's it.
Thank you, Darla. Anyone else?
I had library board meeting, there's a lot of feedback. Before I do that, trivia is a lot of fun on Main Street. I've done it a couple years now, and it is an absolute blast, but I digress. I had the library board meeting. It was not a lot to talk about, but we did review our room rental policy, and they do have like a blind date with a book bag for February, which is quite adorable, and a new kids section theme.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, anyone else? Yes, Bonnie.
At the Finance Committee, we discussed our 2025 capital projects and borrowing for them, but it looks like the presentation we got is going to be happening tonight. Am I right? Then you can all wait for that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, then we'll go on to number 9, City Manager's Report.
Yes, and I, in putting the agenda together, should have made note, typically when we have our Baird representative here to talk about financing matters, we include him as an invited guest. So if council has no objections, or actually if council would consider a motion, might be the better way to do it, to consider out of order agenda item 11A, resolution authorizing issuance and establishing parameters relating to borrowing. I would appreciate that. And then Justin Fisher from Baird can present.
So we are looking for that motion then.
I'll
Thank-
make it.
Thank you, Bonnie, and thank you, Shannon. Any council discussion?
Apologize, we're getting some, oh, you can tell now, yes. I sound like one of those people that's in a witness protection program.
We're getting some weird feedback through the system. So, it's better now. Apologies to anyone at home, as well as people in the room. So,
Okay, we had a motion and a second. Any council discussion? See none, this will be an all in favor. So all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried.
just by way of a brief introduction, as Bonnie, who chairs Personnel and Finance, stated, Personnel and Finance met last week. It was for review with our Robert W. Baird representative of planned borrowing activity for related to the 2025 budget. Justin Fisher is here tonight to address the council regarding the proposed total general obligation borrowing, all in the form of 10-year notes of just over 3,355,000 in new debt for capital projects. 1,985,000 of that is anticipated to be tax-supported borrowing. The other borrowing that would have other dedicated revenue sources, but would nonetheless be general obligation borrowing or GO borrowing. There's also a sort of a contingent borrowing, which would be if indeed interest rate savings can be achieved on an existing state trust fund loan that was taken out in 2020. That was for some stormwater projects and for erosion control projects when we were dealing with record high Lake Michigan water levels. We did a loan that was a stormwater revenue loan through the state trust fund loan program. The proposal is to pursue GO or general obligation borrowing to refund that issue, not to extend the term of it, but to see if we can get a superior rate. Again, one of the reasons we're also, and Justin will explain this as well, but that we're looking at GO borrowing at this time is with considerable growth in the city's equalized value in recent years. The self-imposed and statutory limits on total GO borrowing are not nearly as much a concern as they were just a few years ago. We're at less, going from memory, but we're about less than 40% of our statutory limit. The city's longstanding policy is to stay at or below 60% of the statutory limit on GO, which is in turn, that limit is 5% of equalized value. So right now we're at about, do the math quick, Greg, 2% of equalized value in outstanding GO debt, which gives a fair amount of headroom, not just under the statute, but under our policies. So with that, after Justin's presentation, you will be asked to act on a parameters resolution that authorizes Baird on the city's behalf to go to market with the issue.
Thank you, Greg, and good seeing everyone in another year. So what I'm going to go through tonight is really a follow-up to what we went through in Finance Committee, what they heard, and what I'm going to go through is a quick interest rate update. I will go through the financing summary and timeline, the detailed long-term financing illustration, and then finish off with what Greg just was talking about, the general obligation borrowing capacity for this.
Yes, Mark. Or Bill, sorry, Mark's over there. Yes, Bill.
Is there something wrong with the sound system? All I hear is garbly and kind of low.
Yeah, we've had a little feedback up here. Hang on one sec. Sounds good now? Is it sounding any better now?
You sound good.
Okay.
Okay, just a reminder to everybody, something clearly is not right with the system tonight, but just a reminder to council members, again, please do lean in and use darn near your outdoor voice on the mics.
So if everyone could flip to page 2 of the presentation packet, what you're going to see on this page is an interest rate graph over the past year. It has the 5, 10, 20, and 30-year type interest rates. It kind of shows you that interest rates over the last year have been kind of moving up and down, but for the most part have stayed pretty flat. When you look at where we did the financing last year, it was pretty much that early March timeframe. So it's about 30 to 50 basis points higher than where we were last year. But on a overall scale, when you look at historically speaking, interest rates are still very historically low when you think about where the rates were even 20 years ago. So the other thing that we always take a look at is the state trust fund loan program, which Greg mentioned earlier. That's something that the city has utilized many times for different strategies and different purposes. But currently that 6 to 10 year type state trust fund loan program is at a 6.25%. So if we were seeing in the bond market that we weren't going to be able to get near that interest rate, we probably would just go through the state trust fund loan program. But as we've seen in years past, we're able to get a much better interest rate. And because we're doing tax exempt projects for these capital items, the state trust fund loan program is for taxable related projects. Think of private use type projects, development related items that would typically be under that category. So that's kind of a quick interest rate update for council. Now, if we go to page 3, what I went through with the PNF committee on February 11th was this plan of finance where they recommended to move forward. Tonight is where you're approving the parameter borrowing resolution, which gives authority to move forward with the sale, essentially giving city manager or the finance director the authority to sign off on the sale, assuming certain parameters are achieved. And that's been the same process we've used in the years past. And it's been great because with the interest rates being so volatile, it gives flexibility to be able to jump into the market when we're ready, and timing looks optimal. And it's worked out really great in years past. So we've already begun the preparations for the issuance, the official statement. That's like contains all the financial information about the city that a potential investor would want to take a look at and potentially bid on. In discussions with the bond insurance companies, and then the marketing for the financing. Assuming all goes well and the parameters are met, we're potentially going to be jumping into the market here in early March, and then the closing for the financing would take place early April. So the estimated size for this financing, $3,355,000. It's a general obligation promissory note. So a general obligation, you're on unlimited taxing authority. So it's going to be your most secure type financing, ultimately getting you the lowest interest rates when you go out to the bond marketplace. So, and we'll talk about your capacity and why it makes sense to potentially do a little bit of refinancing, push that into the general obligation, because again, we have the ability to do that. And if we can get better interest rates by doing that, let's take a look at it. But the 2025 capital improvement project, it's going to be made up of different funding sources. One, a majority of it's going to be your levy supported capital projects. So anything that the city's borrowing that will be funded by city tax levies. There's also going to be a wastewater supported portion. So wastewater will cover that debt service, and then the Sandy Bay development revenues of $450,000. The refinancing is smaller, about $820,000 is what we're the amount remaining on that financing. It's at a 4.5%. It's really going to be dependent come early March where interest rates are. If it makes economic sense to include it, we'll include it. If it doesn't make economic sense, we'll wait for a potential better day and hope interest rates drop in the future and take advantage at that time. But if we can achieve 2%, which is kind of the industry standard to move forward at that time, we'll include it. Otherwise, we'll leave out. So the structure matures April 1, 2026 to 2035, so 10-year financing. First interest April 1, 2026, so next year being the first interest payment. Callable April 1, 2032, or any date thereafter. So on that particular day, we can take a look at refinancing or paying it off. The estimated interest rate is 4.25%, and the maximum interest rate 4.75%. If we get close to 4.75%, or we're seeing the market just shoot up over the next couple of weeks, I'll probably want to get in front of you just to give you an update what's going on in the bond marketplace, because something definitely would have happened. I mean, even last week after the PNF committee meeting, CPI numbers came in a little bit higher than anticipated, and that shot up interest rates about 15 basis points pretty quick. Then another report came out later in that week and dropped their interest rates back down. So it's a little bit of a roller coaster, and it's day by day, and that's why it's very important to look at when these economic data reports are going to come out and potentially get ahead of them if it's looking like there could be a lot of volatility with their report or not. So that's going to be something we're going to be watching early March very closely. Now, if we go to page 4, this is the detailed financing illustration. A lot of numbers on this page. I won't go through it in a ton of detail, but the left side of the page, that's your levy supported debt service on an annual basis. So that's everything that's on the books and borrowed for in the past. The middle of the page, that's what we're talking about today, and you can see how it's kind of broken out between the different components. Then if you go a little bit over to the right side, there's that example future issues levy supported column. That's factoring in long-term planning. Again, kind of working with city staff and saying, okay, if you were to fund $2 million in levy supported projects every year going forward to keep up with your investments in your community. What does that debt service potentially look like, factoring that into what's currently on the books? And that's where that blue column there on the right may look if you were to continue to fund the $2 million. And as you can see, it remains pretty level year over year. And that's basically because as years go by, you're paying down existing obligations. So you're kind of you're on the cycle where you're able to pay off your existing, replace it with some new, and get a new capital project done for your community. So that's kind of the good point that you're at, is that we're able to basically replace it with new and get things continue to be done within your community. So that's all good news there.
Justin,
Now-
is that common for most communities to have that type of future projections of level activity?
You know, a lot of communities in Wisconsin are trying to get to the point where they can basically not have any type of large impact to their taxes by taking on additional capital projects. So, you know, and the city's been doing a very good job, you know, for many years now, being able to keep the borrowing from the capital projects to a very, you know, minimal amount as far as staying around that $2 million per year. At the same time, if we look at the next page, I think this is a nice illustration kind of going right into your question, is your valuation within the community has jumped pretty significantly over the last several years. So you've been able to keep your borrowings to a pretty consistent level while your growth in the community, and that's, you know, inflation and development and all the different things, has grown pretty substantially over the last several years. You know, I think Greg mentioned it. At the end of 2019, the city had about 33% remaining capacity, or about $8.7 million in available borrowing capacity. What this graph is showing you now is that you have 60% remaining capacity, or $28.2 million in available capacity. Now, not saying we ever get close to that again, but it does give a lot more comfort and flexibility to be able to look at refinancing other obligations into general obligation debt, or do a larger, you know, type project if something were to come up that the city wanted to pursue. So the way to read this is the black bars in there, that's your existing obligations. That's, you know, as you can see, it's decreasing year over year because you're paying down that debt. The red bars there, that's what we're talking about tonight. That's the 2025 capital improvement borrowing. And then the blue is that hypothetical $2 million capital borrowing every year going forward for forever. And you can see how it's all kind of stacked in place. And then the gray bars, that's what you potentially have as remaining general obligation capacity. So again, trying to stay within the policy, you're within the policy, which is great. You've got capacity to be able to continue to do things. And, you know, again, this is used as a 2% growth factor in this projection. If you grow faster, this gray bar only gets bigger over time. So hopefully conservative. It has been over the last couple of years, but, you know, rather be conservative in these projections and come and show you next year and it looks even better.
I apologize. It's doing the weird thing with the voice again. Then it suddenly gets better. We hope. This is strange.
We often comment that one of the positive things about the city's general obligation debt structure is that most of our debt, far and away, most of our debt is 10-year debt. You never want to be issuing debt that has a term exceeding the life of the asset being financed. And quite the contrary, and particularly on our GO debt, I would say we're being conservative in that we almost exclusively do 10-year borrowing. I have heard that maybe a little misinterpreted by some residents who've heard us make the statement without adequately explaining it, maybe at our end, that the bulk of the city's GO debt is due within the next 10 years. That doesn't mean we've got you know, some huge amount of debt service that's clobbering us. The fact is, in any given year, going back probably 15 or 20 years, most of our debt is due in the next 10 years. And you see that we don't show the principal outstanding, but if you just go down that combined debt service column on page 4, if we were 10 years out, the debt service on existing debt that we have would be $70,000 a year. So again, far and away, most of our debt is 10 years. Now, often with the utility debt, particularly the things the city's been doing in recent years, that doesn't show on this chart, but utility supported debt, notably for water and sewer systems, that more typically is 20-year debt. But 20-year debt that's financing assets with probably a 75 to 100-year life with water and sewer infrastructure. So I just wanted to point that out. I think that's a significant aspect of our debt, and maybe typical, but I'd say toward the conservative end of the spectrum among cities, in that we hardly ever do 20-year GO or 15-year GO. Pointed it out at the Finance and Personnel meeting. There is a small lift in that total levy-supported debt service shown in the blue highlighted column at the far right on page 4. Next year, levy-supported debt service has about a $65,000 lift. That would equate to about a 1% total lift in the city levy. We did also this year apply some premium from last year's issue that in the final analysis might add another 1% to that. But right now, again, this is projected at 4.25%. We may do better. The council could certainly make some priority decisions as we approach 2026 as to cutting back and borrowing if it sees fit in that year. But I did want to point that out. It's, I think, a modest lift. We didn't see any lift in our taxes this year for very good reason, but that was a point of discussion at the Personnel and Finance Committee meeting. But I did provide, and I'm sorry, Jason, I hadn't furnished it to you, but just pointing out that historically, Baird does present a pro forma like tonight, showing projected debt service with an assumed interest rate in the pro forma this year at 4.25%. The parameters resolution is usually a little bit higher, so there's some breathing room to go to market and place an issue. And then there's what we actually realize at sale. And historically, the actual rate obtained at sale has always been, the last 5 years, has been well below the parameters resolution, not saying, well, they wouldn't borrow it more than the parameters resolution anyway. And typically it's been higher than what's shown in the pro forma. Last year, the pro forma was at 4%. The rate obtained was 3.59%. Year before, the pro forma was at 4%. Parameters resolution will add up to 4.75. The rate obtained was 3.78. The only aberration I found in the last 5 years, and it was a point where rates were starting to go up, some was 2022. The pro forma was at 2.75, actual sale at 3.03. Parameters resolution, though, is at 3.25. And the lowest rate we've ever seen, I think, on an issue was 2021. The pro forma was at a modest 1.97%. Those were really low rates at that time. The parameters resolution was 2.5, and we actually came in at 1.67 for that year. So we need to certainly let our advisors go to market with some headroom compared to where we are now, because the markets do have some fluctuation. And I think this is certainly appropriate in keeping with the way we've done this historically. With that, the council could consider action on the parameters resolution as recommended by the Personnel and Finance Committee.
Okay, so we are skipping up over to 11A under formal items. With the resolution authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $3,355,000 general obligation promissory note, financing of 2025 capital projects, possible refinancing of existing debt. So we're looking for a motion to waive reading and adopt the ordinance. Thank you, Bonnie. Second by Tim. Any council discussion? Yes, Adam.
Yeah, we did talk about the lift of 65,000, which I don't really like. I don't want to see any lift. Sometimes I think it'd help if we had this hypothetical during budget season to kind of know where the heck we stand when we're kind of allowing the the budget to move forward with our capital projects. We kind of don't know where we're at with interest or possible interest rates to see exactly where we think we're going to be at, which can be hard, obviously, because at that time it's October, November. But sometimes it'd be nice to see some kind of look at the future as to what kind of impact this would have on our budget going into 2025, actually to 2026. This is our borrowing now.
Yeah, anyone else? Okay, seeing no one else, then this will be a roll call vote.
Doug Brandt,
Aye.
Tim Petrie,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimelunis,
Aye.
Scott Steckmeister,
Aye.
Adam Mahusky,
No.
Darla Leclerc, Mark Bittner,
Aye.
Shannon Derby,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
passes 8-1.
Thank you for that.
Justin, while you're still up there, timing as far as when you anticipate we'd be going to market? Early March. So we'll report back the day of, hopefully placing the issue to council via email, and we'll make it an agenda item for public information at the very next meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for allowing that deviation from the agenda order. Next up, under city manager's report, I have my report here. First off, I'd like to thank Phil Rohr, who has done some amazing drone images around the community. This features our public works and wastewater facilities in all their glory on Lake Michigan. I would point out, because not everybody wanders over there, and it's even prettier in the summer, but you do see where on the Lake Michigan side of the public works, water, wastewater complex, the large stone, which was made available from the Kewaunee nuclear plant, and it was free except for shipping and handling, which cost about $250,000 to place these stones, fondly known as BFRs, along the shoreline there. There were extras that were available, so they were placed in a double row behind Public Works, and there actually is a graveled trail that goes back there. This is the same area we've discussed with the planning grant that we're somewhat on hold right now with various funding sources, but addressing possible future improved recreational uses of this area. And I would point out, we have the area where concrete and asphalt are stockpiled after street projects and then are reprocessed. We usually take quotes or take bids for grinding that into gravel that we use for street and utility projects. Hopefully this year you'll see more serious discussion of relocating that to a site in the industrial park. We've had discussion with the CDA about that, but just had to riff a little bit on this here photo, which shows the area very, very nicely. Not to mention those sludge barns, which, darn it, we put the sludge in a dump truck, and the dump truck could go anywhere, but we built sludge barns on top of Lake Michigan. But that's a story for another day. Staffing updates. In the police department, we're happy to welcome Jessica Rogers as our new community service officer. She's originally from the area and recently came back after active duty in the U.S. Army, where she attained the rank of sergeant, and did serve overseas in both Kuwait and Iraq. She has recently been a stay-at-home mom, rejoining the workforce in this important position with the city. That position was formerly held by Jody Miller. Jody recently applied for, and through a competitive process, was selected for the open position of police clerk and evidence technician. I believe Chief Minert indicated that Jessica will be here at the next meeting for an introduction to City Council. So we'll keep her plenty busy and keep those cards and letters coming in on any problem properties that need attention. As far as ongoing recruitment and selection, city manager position, we had mentioned a couple times now, the second meeting of the selection committee had been completed. Public Administration Associates is working on an ad to be placed in March, again targeting a late May selection and a July start date. There is a survey form that I got from Kevin Brunner of PAA via email this weekend That's regarding desired qualities for a new city manager, and that'll be distributed this week to city council and department heads. We also do plan, per direction of the committee, to make that available on the city's website to the general public, so they can have some feedback going into the selection process. We continue the search for city planner, community development director, not filled at this point. Interviews have been completed for certified operator. Amanda, I didn't ask you about this today, but anything additional we can offer there? Do we have an identified top candidate?
We did identify a top candidate. We're conducting background checks right now.
Okay, so hopefully we can report something definite by the next meeting. And then we do have the position currently being advertised for lead facilities worker for parks and playgrounds in the Parks and Rec Department. So that's a key position on that team, and look forward to getting that filled. Very pleased to share the honor that was richly deserved and bestowed by the Chamber of Manitowoc County on Mike Mathis, our Parks and Rec Director,
as Young Professional of the Year for 2024. That was announced last week at the Chamber's annual awards program. Both Mike and Heather, our Senior Center Director, were among the Future 15, Heather Eilenfeld from Senior Center. And we congratulate both of them on this recognition. And it was fantastic to be there and see Mike, and not just Mike, but as he gave credit very generously at the microphone, acknowledging the work of his team, because he heads up an outstanding team. I know council members, any number of you have extended congratulations. Mike, well done. We're lucky to have you on board. That's our team. That's our team. Also, we would acknowledge the accomplishment of two electric utility employees, Paul Fabian and Gina, help me out here, Gina Sampe, excuse me, have completed recently the Joint Action Leadership Certificate Program offered through WPPI Energy, our energy supplier. And that's a 2-year program where the participants learn more about the partnership that is WPPI and partnerships within the community by bringing concepts and content from the coursework back to their communities. I should actually, Brian, do you have any comments on this? Maybe you want to share a little bit more on the JALC program?
We're doing a fine job, by the way.
I was on a roll and then I looked out there and thought, what the heck?
So WPPI offers a 2-year program for any type of utility employees that basically they're going to go through a different professional development,
Leadership opportunities, networking with others that attend the program. Basically, they're going through onboarding, rates, financial planning and management. They learn about the power supply through WPPI and the various support services. So I would want to also congratulate Paul and Gina on their accomplishment. In addition to completing this program, WPPI then offers them a $1,500 stipend to go to a national conference of their choice. And there's various programs throughout the country. There's been San Diego, San Antonio, New Orleans, various places. So engineering and operations, community, like customer service connections type programs. So yeah, they'll have a choice of going to something like that.
Round of applause for these two employees. And it's great that our power supplier isn't just a power supplier, but does support professional development of these folks at the community level. Would remind you, there is a spring primary election tomorrow to narrow the field for state superintendent of schools from 3 down to 2 for the April general election. And our clerk and our deputy clerk have been busy today setting up the polling places. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow. Go out, vote, exercise your civic duty, and occupy our poll workers, because otherwise it can be a really long day on these kind of light primaries. You might even want to educate yourself on the candidates.
before going. I didn't put a slide in here, but kudos to all of our city employees involved in the storm response. 3 of them within the last 7 days, not 3 employees, 3 storm events. You all know, because you've spent a lot of time on your snow blower or shovel. Good job on the post-storm cleanup. There's a fair amount of corner cleaning and ultimately cleaning inlets and other things that hasn't really been a consideration this winter up until now. So you will see some continued activity out there. Don't know if anybody has, if there's anybody out there that has left their sidewalk unshoveled, but would just remind folks that it's been more than 24 hours now since the snow ceased to fall. So if your sidewalk is still not shoveled, you are out of compliance and making things kind of difficult for people that depend on the sidewalks to get safely around. So, and I would note though that with the most of the evening and early morning hours cleanup, including windrow removal, now completed. Did consult with Public Works today, and we again have suspended enforcement of the winter overnight parking ban on city streets. So Mother Nature's given us a little bit of a break after 3 storms in the last week. Keep an eye on the Facebook pages for City Hall and the Two Rivers Police Department, also the city's website for any updates. But right now, things after this cold snap are looking like they might even moderate a little, and the forecast is looking fairly dry. So starting tonight, actually technically 1 a.m. tomorrow morning, you're okay to park on the street again. You saw this slide at the last meeting. It was about an issue with the inventory of water service laterals in the city that was submitted last fall timely to WDNR, identifying the different types of laterals out in the system. There was an issue identified, however, based on EPA's review of the submittal with the manner in which the report stated the basis for material classification. That did result in a violation notice. As I understand the EPA regs, if there's any violation relative to that report, it's considered an operating violation. So the city has been required to respond in the manner required by EPA and DNR. Just an update in the little ivory colored box there. The required notices, as required by EPA, were postmarked and mailed last Thursday, February 13. I don't know that everyone has gotten them yet. I called home to check and was reminded by my wife that today is President's Day, so we didn't get any mail. But those should be, if you haven't gotten them already, they should be in your mailboxes tomorrow, unless the post office has done something strange with them. They went out last Thursday, the 13th. The utility has also posted public notices at various public locations. The idea there being that some additional outreach is required because there might be folks out there that are water consumers but aren't the parties that pay the bill, like if they have a landlord that pays the bill. And information on those, the utility's compliance with those notice requirements has also been furnished to EPA by our water utility. Our director, Mr. Sukawati, has consulted with DNR's compliance consultants who are available to assist water systems with compliance activities on lead and copper. He's reviewed with them the revisions that appear to be needed in our inventories format, and we expect to be filing a revised inventory report by the end of March. With a little luck and a good amount of effort, we hope pretty well before the end of March. But rest assured that's being followed up on, and the inventory, I will say, is complete, but did not meet some of the criteria as far as the manner in which some of the formatting was done and things were reported. So that's being worked on. And while it was authorized by the city council quite a while ago, it's taken some time for the elevator company to get all the parts together. And we were recently notified that the contractor will be ready to commence the modifications, the rehab work on the elevator here at City Hall starting Monday, February 24. Should be a 3 to 4 week process if there aren't any unexpected problems. We're planning for 4 weeks on that. Public meetings normally held on the 2nd or 3rd floors at City Hall will be rescheduled for alternate handicap accessible locations. We'll talk in just a minute about city council. With some of our boards and committees, we may need to move to other buildings. If it's a night when there's only one committee meeting, say Public Works, Utilities, or Personnel and Finance, and we can fit people around a few folding tables in the lobby level, in the lobby area here at City Hall, I think would quite likely do that. As far as the council work session next Monday, February 24, and for now, the two regular meetings in March, the community room at Leicester Public Library is available and has been reserved. I also did check right away on the Costco room, the main room over at the senior center, which is a pretty good location too, with a big parking lot outside and the ability to roll right in or access that. But that is booked on Mondays for some classes. So I've taken the liberty, council can countermand if you wish, but the library seems to be a good location. That's where we relocated some council meetings to when this area was taken over for the Elijah search activities. So meetings would be at their regular times, but posted for the community room over at Leicester Library. We do not have the ability to stream out onto charter cable from any location other than here at City Hall. So it will not go directly to cable. Dave, I meant to ask you this today. Do we have the ability to replay and feed out to charter? We'll be figuring that out. Okay. And we will, however, be able to live stream onto Facebook and YouTube for those meetings. And the meetings will, as is the case now, be available for viewing after the fact on Facebook and YouTube. Sorry, I meant to ask that question earlier today. We'll be looking into the ability, if we have it on media, to just replay out over cable channel 993. We will, one of the council members asked us before the meeting, as far as services to the public, we will probably simply do a posting on the first floor here at City Hall that anyone requiring assistance from departments located on the second and third floors who's unable to access, because the elevator is the only game in town when it comes to handicap access to the second and third floors, that city staff are in a position to come to the lower level, the first floor of the building, and meet with the public to provide those services. So not optimal, but tell me what time is optimal to take the elevator out for a month. Just knock wood, so far we haven't experienced a major outage, and that's a fear because that elevator is 32 years old. It was installed when the building was renovated. So there's that. And that's that. Also, there was training in this room last week on the RAP restraint system. That is a 2025 capital project for the police department. It's a safe restraint system designed to protect subjects, I would say arrestees as a layperson, officers and police department staff by reducing the possibility of injury and death. The system secures the subject, provides protection in the form of padding and restraint belts that attach to the subject while making sure they can maintain breathing and control of actions other than flailing their extremities or hitting people, and prevent them from causing further harm to themselves or others. There's likewise a unit that will go in one of the squads to help restrain the person that has been put in the RAP system. And you see there some of our police personnel restrained, and it's meant to facilitate picking up an individual and carrying them with minimizing the potential for injury to the subject or to the officers or anyone else. Got a little noisy in here at times, but it was interesting. Explore Two Rivers met last week. There are 3 new board members on Explore. We had one member, I believe, of that board who came to the end of their term and declined reappointment. 2 others have stepped aside after doing a whole lot of work laying the groundwork for the board. The new board members are Todd Nielsen from Clock Tower Advisors. Todd's a former chairman about a year ago of the Two Rivers Business Association, former president of the TRBA. Melissa Neeson
is one of the two partners in the Violet Inn project downtown with a background in marketing. And then Aaron Dembski, ranger at Point Beach State Forest. Aaron served out at Point Beach for a long time and certainly one of our huge tourism assets as a community. We welcome them, thank them for their willingness to serve on the Explore board. The Explore Two Rivers board did meet last week. They were meeting across the hall while Personnel and Finance met in this room. At that meeting, they reviewed the 2024 budget to actual for tourism. They reviewed 2024 year-end room tax revenue, which in just a quick summary, our gross room tax proceeds were up about 3% last year, which is pretty good compared to the world around us, where a lot of communities showed declines. And they also agreed to move forward with the services contract for 2025 with the city's Room Tax Commission, as had been forwarded by the Room Tax Commission, and agreed to move forward with an evening event celebrating National Travel and Tourism Week in May. Watch for an invitation on that. I know Joe and the board or the Explore board are planning on a nice community event over at Sepia Chapel.
Greg, it might be interesting. Why don't you share the existing membership of the board?
Actually,
Name?
Joe, can I trust you to memory on that? The other members of the board in
15 members are currently,
John Wyrostic. Third is the designated rep from the Room Tax Commission. Yes, Gina Cron of, of Cool City Brewing, and Tanya Prosser from the Village Inn Motel. Yeah. Pretty good on the fly. Thank you, Mark.
I
Yes,
just want
sir.
to point out, there's a couple letters missing from Erin's last name. I think her name is Dombrowski, just for the
Really?
record.
Okay, I thought it was Dembski, but I may be wrong. I know I don't think Melissa has those two I's either, but I will check. You probably have it. Thank you. We'll follow up on that. Oh, this is awful, isn't it? Okay, Two Rivers Utilities does offer a scholarship program, and they will be awarding again this year 2 $500 scholarships for area high school students. To be eligible, the student, their parent, or their legal guardian must be a customer of the Two Rivers Utilities, and the deadline for that is April 4. Go to the website for Two Rivers Utilities, and there's a scholarship application form there. The first of what will be quarterly Two Rivers City Council listening sessions is this Wednesday evening. Excuse me, now I'm doing it. The 19th, 6 p.m. in the seating area by the fireplace at the Leicester Public Library. And per council's earlier agreement, there will be 3 council members, not a quorum, 3 council members in attendance at that session. And help me out, Scott, at this one, it will be our council president, Mr. Steckmesser, council member Derby,
And Mr. Bittner.
and councilmember Mark Bittner. So that we'll be talking a bit during the formal items section for the city attorney to review with council, the guidelines that were adopted for these sessions. But again, this is the first such listening session, 6 p.m. this Wednesday, Leicester Public Library. Central Park West, that ice will hopefully be uncovered from all that snow. And there's a teen skate night scheduled for this coming Friday, February 21st, 5:30 to 7:30. Free skate rentals, or come and just hang out. Hot cocoa, grades 6 to 12. And if you're requesting skates, we'll need a parent or guardian signature. So get out and enjoy some ice time in Central Park. It is beautiful out there. Also, the fundraiser, one of the major fundraisers for Two Rivers Youth Sports, The Price is Right, over in the gym at the Hamilton Community House this coming Saturday, February 22. Tickets are $20. Adam, still available at Piggly Wiggly?
Mainly sold out. All the tables are sold out. There's some general admission that are left, maybe 10 to 15.
Okay, so still an opportunity for a few general admission tickets, but you better get them fast if you're going to. So congratulations already for what looks like a successful event. TRCCS volleyball tournament is coming up on a couple weeks out,
Saturday and Sunday, March 1st and 2nd over in the Community House Gym. I know this event always has great participation. The folks involved really enjoy it too. So TRCCS Volleyball Tournament. Upcoming city council candidate forums, those typically would be held here in chambers as well, but because of the elevator situation, they are now scheduled for a couple different locations over at the Community House. The League of Women Voters Candidate Forum on Thursday, March 6th, starts at 7 o'clock. It runs from 7 to 8:30, and that's in the Costco room at the Senior Center. That's basically the main room over at the TR Senior Center. And then the 12th, I'm sorry, the next one is the TRBA, Two Rivers Business Association Candidates Forum. That's on Tuesday, March 18, starting at 6:30 at the Community House, this time in the Behringer Room down on the lower level. So we'll be getting reminders out on these. We'll have it on the next agenda as well. If you're either one of the candidates or looking at attending, you might want to make a note because these were originally planned for here at City Hall. Again, there will be arrangements for those to be streamed on Facebook and the city YouTube channel, and we'll see about replay. Obviously replay on those two sources, but also on cable if possible. And with that, we again look north over Two Rivers, courtesy of Phil Rohr Drone Photography. Thank you.
In our
Yes, sir.
packets, both of those are set for the Behringer Room.
Yes, and actually I had taken the liberty of reserving the Behringer Room, but then the League of Women Voters did have a preference for the Costco Room. So different locations, half an hour different starting times. So would remind people, pay attention because it's easy to confuse those. So yeah, you're correct. That turned out to be, well, it was correct when the packet went to press, but it got changed today. Thank you. That's all I got, Mr. President and Council. Thank you.
Thank you for that. On to number 10, consent agenda. Under A, we have presentation of minutes. We have two of those, the city council work session from January 27th, 2025, and the city council regular meeting from February 3rd, 2025. The recommended action will be a motion to waive reading and adopt the minutes. Under B, we have minutes meeting. We have the Committee on Aging from January 6th, 2025, the Library Board from January 14th, 2025, and the Public Utilities Committee from February 3rd, 2025, and the Public Works Committee from February 5th, 2025. The recommended action will be a motion to receive and file. Under C, we have department reports for February 2025. We have City Clerk, Electric, Fire, Inspections, Library, Police, Public Works, Water, and Tourism. The recommended action will be a motion to receive and file. Under D, we have finance reports, October and November 2024. We have debt services, general fund, Wester Library, and utilities report. Recommended action will be a motion to receive and file. Under E, we have a summary of verified bills for the month of January 2025 for $7,417,831.47. The recommended action will be a motion to receive and file. And then under F, we have application and petitions. The first one is an application for a temporary Class B beer license for Roncalli Catholic Schools TRCCS Volleyball Tournament, March 1st and 2nd, 2025, from 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. at the Community House, 1710 West Park Street. The second one is an application for a temporary Class B beer license for Friends of the Two Rivers Senior Center, Cork and Canvas, April 4th, 2025, from 6 o'clock p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. 1520 17th Street. And then finally, we have an application for temporary Class B beer license for the Two Rivers Youth Sports Price is Right Game Show, February 22nd, 2025, from 8 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. at 1710 West Park Street. The recommended action will be a motion to approve the applications and authorize issuance of the license. The recommended action for the consent agenda, it will be a motion to approve the consent agenda with the various actions recommended. Looking for that motion. Thank you, Shannon. Second by, thank you, Bonnie. Any council discussion?
Mr. President?
Yes.
Reading through this, I realized in listening to the meeting tonight, I think it's really significant we point out that Explore Two Rivers added to their new board of directors, Aaron from Point Beach State Park, and maybe our tourism director can talk about what he did recently distributing brochures and the number of people that means. With Aaron's involvement, maybe we get more people here. So. Joe, you want to tell us about Point Beach State Park and the impact it's going to mean?
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. So we are blessed to have both Aaron and John Wyrostek on our board. John serves as the chairperson of the Friends of Point Beach State Park, and obviously Aaron's longtime role with the state forest. So we met last fall and we talked about how could we do a better job of engaging the over 325,000 people that visit the park on an annual basis. So we came up with a couple different ideas. One of them was to use what the park hosts, which are those folks that come and stay at the park for a week, 3 weeks, sometimes even a month. They tend to be the park ambassadors. So we created packets that we're rolling out in 2025. Each one of those park hosts will get a packet that we've already put together and basically highlights what's going on in the community of Two Rivers and throughout Manitowoc County. It's our hope that that helps bridge that communication between those folks that are either visiting the park for the day or are there for an extended period of time, and having them have a better opportunity to not only enjoy what the park has to offer, but the rest of the lakeshore community, specifically Two Rivers. We're hoping for success on that one. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, this will be a all in favor. So please all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
I don't oppose, but I will abstain.
Good catch. Motion carried. On to 11, city council formal items. We can skip over A because that is already done. We can go to B, consideration of bids received for construction of an extension of landfill leachate collection system, 2024 budgeted capital project carried over to 2025.
Yes, this, as was noted, this was a budgeted item at $200,000 in the capital budget for 2024. Got carried over to this year as somebody needs to mute. Oh, I guess I'm
Mark?
Bill.
I'm sorry,
Bill?
Bill. Mark is there. Bill is there. Hey, Bill, can you mute, please? We're picking up some feedback.
I'm muted.
Or someone else that's on? There we go. Thank you.
Perhaps the city attorney.
City
That's
attorneys
right.
might be on there.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm muted, but I don't know.
okay.
Thank you.
Might be whatever's making my voice weird. You know,
Could
never
be.
know. So you have a report in your packets from Mr. Heckenleibel, who'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Bids were opened last week for this project. Bear in mind, the cost estimate was about $108,000 from engineering. We originally budgeted last year $200,000. Of course, there'll be some engineering, design, and inspection costs associated with it. The good news is, first of all, there were 6 bids received, which is great. There was a pretty good range. The low bidder came in at $127,019.50, and that bid was from Mammoth Construction LLC, local contractor with a fine track record of doing work with the city. This is as noted in the description, erosion control, removing of an existing pumping well, installation of a new manhole/pumping well, perforated leachate collection line to get that leachate to the collection system and ultimately onto the sanitary sewer system and the city's wastewater plant. This is related to a fairly new seep area that was identified where landfill leachate was evident. So it required this expansion of the existing leachate collection system for the old landfill. That landfill was operated by the city for many years on leased property, but the city took and continues to have responsibility for regulatory compliance. And so that includes venting the landfill gases, collecting leachate, treating that leachate at our wastewater treatment plant. So we'd recommend approval of the contract. Again, any questions, feel free to ask Matt on up to address them.
Questions for Matt right away? Yes, Doug?
I asked Matt and Scott some questions early in the day, and I appreciate that, but, is there any requirement, for CQA or record drawings to the DNR that's not under this contract with Mammoth, and who would perform the CQA?
Between the city and our new consultant, Robert E. Lee, they would provide those documents to the DNR.
That's a separate contract.
That's a separate contract, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Adam?
So we borrowed 200,000. Who's paying for the engineering?
Which engineering?
It says the engineering estimate for the contract is 107,000 and then the contract amount is 127
That was the estimate from engineering for the capital project.
for the project.
For the project. There are engineering costs above and beyond that. Yeah, but the engineering cost estimate.
So the engineering cost estimate is not 107,000. That's what the cost, the engineers were anticipating this project to be.
To build, yeah.
Got it.
So it came in a little bit higher, a bit higher.
Years ago that estimate was prepared?
It was prepared late spring of 2024.
There's been cost creep and everything like that.
Anyone else?
Mr. President.
Yes, go
I
ahead.
also had the opportunity to talk to Matt earlier about some questions, and one of the questions is, how long do we have to do this and when can we stop? You might answer that to the crowd. And then I looked at why there was such a variance in the ranges of the bid prices, wondering that, we don't always take the cheapest. There's some legitimate reasons. And then the process, the units and the rates, you might explain that too, Matt, if you would, to the general people here.
So as far as how long will we have to maintain the landfill? In perpetuity. The city has the deepest pockets and we're not going anywhere. So we put garbage in there. We are the local entity that was running the landfill. So we are now required to maintain and treat the waste in that area in perpetuity. So as far as the ranges of the bids, in particular, Mr. Bittner was wondering why the contractor Riverview Construction had the high bid, and primarily two reasons. One, they're not local, so they're out of the Wausau area, which is good to see. But secondly, because they're not from the area, they now have to have room and board for their staff, thus some of the increased costs in their mobilization and other costs. So as far as the units in the bid summary, Mr. Bittner was questioning what the estimated quantities were for and the units. So we'll just start from the top and just kind of do a quick overview. One is just the number of quantity, and LS means lump sum. So for that very first bid item, the mobilization and demobilization, they'll get paid once, one lump sum, and for whatever dollar amount they put in there. Jumping down, LF would be for lineal feet. So under bid item 4A, it's 362 lineal feet. So on and so forth. So SF is square footage, tons are tons, CY is cubic yards, and SY would be square yards. So ultimately it's quantity times unit price or bid price equals the extended amount. Add all that up is your total dollar bid.
The need for this work has also been noted by DNR. We did get that formal notice last week, right?
A reminder that we did have a notice of non-compliance out there since June of 2023. And in the January thaws, we had some water that overtopped one of our temporary dikes, crossed over a private driveway and continued downstream unchecked. So DNR is requiring us to summarize where we're at and what actions we're planning on taking. So ultimately, the action that they approved in late spring last year, April of last year, was the plan that was just bid out. But it took them a while to get us this plan, and now we're moving on it.
Any other questions? If not, looking for a motion to award the contract to Mammoth Construction LLC of Manitowoc based on its lowest qualified bid in the amount of $127,019.50.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Bill. Got it right. Do I have a second? Thank you, Tim. Any council discussion? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote. Amanda?
Tim Petrie. Bonnie Shimalunas.
Aye.
Scott Steckmeister.
Aye.
Adam Mahusky. Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Mark Bittner.
Aye.
Shannon Derby.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Doug Brandt.
Aye.
All in favor.
Thank you all for that. On to C, resolution changing the location for the February 24th, March 3rd, and March 17th city council meetings to an alternative handicapped accessible location due to a planned renovation project for the elevator serving City Hall.
Pretty straightforward. I just figured since the council does with its resolution at the organizational meeting each year, identify meeting dates, times, locations for regular meetings over the course of the year, it would be well to have a resolution putting on record the change that we've discussed this evening. So that's what this intends to do.
Okay, looking for a motion then. Thank you, Shannon. Do I have a second? Thank you, Doug. Council discussion. Yes, Mark.
Mr. President, I just want to be clear that this will be at the community center unless otherwise notified. Greg, you mentioned the lower level for some committee meetings, or is it
Right. This
considered?
only addresses city council meetings and it identifies the location as the community room at the Lester Library.
Says as well as city boards, commissions, and committees.
Oh, right. And in those instances, basically all this is saying right now is that other handicap accessible public facilities. We'll be figuring that out as we lay out the agendas for those meetings. So I anticipate they'd either be first floor here, if they can be accommodated, community house, or library.
That'll
In a
be-
pinch, we haven't reached out to them, but we'd probably reach out to the schools if we exhausted city facilities.
And those exceptions will be clearly posted to I don't want people to miss anything if they want. If we have city council, always the library, but committee meetings subject to posting, then.
Right. Yeah. I guess we can highlight that, note new location or note special location, something like that. Yeah.
Anyone else? If not, we'll do a roll call vote again. Amanda?
Bonnie Shimalunas.
Aye.
Scott Steckmeister.
Aye.
Adam Mahusky.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc. Mark Bittner. Shannon Derby.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Doug Brandt.
Aye.
Tim Petrie. All in favor.
Thank you all for that. On to D, review adopted guidelines for city council community listening sessions.
Okay. I've included in your packet, starting at page 255 of the agenda packet, simply the agenda that has been published for the community listening session on Wednesday. Again, it's not a legal, if you will, doesn't constitute a public meeting for purposes of the law because only 3 council members will be present, but this is per the protocols that were developed by the city attorney and adopted by council. I would just note a correction on there. While roll will be noted, the roll and any minutes or notes from the meeting will be either taken by a council member present, or I do plan to be in attendance with my mouth shut at the back of the room for this first one. So it won't literally be roll call by the city clerk, but otherwise as presented. But with that, I thought it would be useful to have our city attorney walk through the parameters or rules for the public listening sessions as were adopted by council. So I would ask Sean if he might walk us through those. And obviously, any council questions could be clarified. I would emphasize going into it, Scott's probably going to, excuse me, Sean is, and Scott are probably going to do this anyway, but council members should not plan on attending and being in the audience. This really should be limited to the 3 council members. And I know council president is already setting up a rotation, so all council members have a chance to participate. We just have to be sure not to trip into a quorum situation inadvertently. So if you're among the 3, that's great. Otherwise, go to the library on a different night. So thank you.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I think we've talked a little about this in the past, but yeah, we're just looking for discussion and potential approval on, I guess not approval, but just talking about guidance for community listening sessions. It's kind of like Greg previewed and what we talked about last time. Just important to note compliance with open records laws, open meetings laws, and that sort of thing. And that's kind of how we have this set up here. So just making sure that we have enough council members present that can be productive and informative conversations, making sure that it's small enough to remove any issues of walking or negative quorum here.
Okay. Anyone have any questions or anything? I know we've talked about it a couple times before, so.
I don't know how important it is, but he keeps saying 2 people are gonna be at these meetings, and it's always 3.
Correct. Yeah, I think that was a typo from last time. They just
Oh.
didn't change it.
Okay.
On the facts part.
Yep, sorry for that. We just picked up what had been provided to the council previously. Yep, and I think that was clearly a council preference expressed at that meeting where these were adopted, that it'd be 3.
Yes, correct.
And that keeps you still legal.
Yeah, I think just from my point of view, this will be the first one. There'll be 3 of us there. We just have to be careful. Don't promise anything. Obviously, we do that now in public now, but just to listen to what they have to say, answer questions if we can, and listen to what they have to say, basically. So, sound good? Yes, Mark.
I just want to make a comment. I encourage the public to continue they've done to myself personally. Talk to me anytime. You can call us anytime, and you can continue that communication. We've talked about doing this for a long time, and I think it's time we take a look at it and see. But it's not the only way to talk to council.
Correct. Okay. John, anything else?
I don't think so. I think it's pretty straightforward in the document.
Yes.
And, I think you've all heard me talking about issues with quorum and that sort of thing. So I think we're good.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Thank you. With that, then we go on to number 12 for information only.
Yes, again, just a reminder, like you needed at this point, of the listening session on Wednesday of this week, 6 o'clock at the library. Next Monday, council will convene at the community room at the library for the monthly work session. That will include a report back with some staff recommendations and follow up to the last work session regarding possible code amendments pertaining to short-term rentals. I've asked the city attorneys to also be prepared to speak to the issue of current Wisconsin law on on registration ordinances and inspection ordinances for longer term rentals like apartments around the community, much like in the area, maybe even to a greater extent than with short-term rentals. There are some very real constraints that have been placed by our Wisconsin legislature. But in all honesty, I think in some ways we have a lot more issues challenging the community on long-term rental housing than we do in the short term. That's Greg's opinion, not necessarily that of the council, but it would be good to to have dialogue to recognize what, in fact, a city can and can't do when it comes to regulation of other than short-term rental properties. So not an action item, but we'll devote some discussion to that. So that's what I've got there. And then, of course, the regular meetings in March are on the 3rd and the 17th, because March looks a lot like February most years. Would request that council enter into closed session after reading the statutory site and the topics as listed on the agenda. And I would say there is a distinct possibility of council action upon reconvening in open session after the closed session. Thanks.
Okay. So on to number 13, closed session. Per Wisconsin statutes 19.851G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. Tonight, there's two different things to talk about. Discuss recent communication from Vanderbilt Arboretum regarding city utility service, and also consider proposed fixed property damage release pertaining to motor vehicle damage to a city park property. Looking for a motion to go into closed session. Thank you, Tim. Second by Shannon. Any council discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Amanda.
Adam Mohusky,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc, Mark Bittner, Shannon Derby,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc, Doug Brandt,
Aye.
Tim Petrie,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimalunas,
Aye.
Scott Steckmeister,
Aye.
all in favor.
Thank you.
Any department heads or acting in their stead department heads